Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9 of the Helix Hour. We are live, and today I'm joined by Line 6's own product owner of Variax, Mr. Andrew Bonica. How you doing, Andrew?
Oh,
And we froze there for a second. Go ahead, say how you doing, man.
I'm great. How are you doing?
Real,
Must be the getting up to speed, you know?
here we go. We got the mice running. They're going, and then once we get the momentum going, we should be good.
Cool, cool. Awesome.
Nice.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I've been looking forward to doing this for a while. It's been great, and thanks for your patience today with getting everything going here. So we should be good to go. Got a bunch of people jumping in the chat already. So before we jump over and say hi to them, which will be very, very soon, why don't we start off just by you telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of personal history, and kind of the things that you're into, and we'll catch up to speed with everything at Line 6 throughout the program.
Sure. So a bit about me. Let's see. My career started in the Marine Corps, actually, right out of high school. I was a electronics technician for air traffic control equipment, as you guys may have seen from some of my pictures. But yeah, after that, I worked for the government for about 9 more years in the DoD. More on the engineering and designing of new systems for the Marines and Air Force, et cetera. Did a lot of stuff with advanced manufacturing and 3D modeling and other communication systems. So pretty extensive technical background on that end. And a lot of people are like, well, why are you at Line 6 or Yamaha or, products industry? Really a lot of similarities. So I joined Line 6 back in 2016. After 14 years working for Uncle Sam, I was like, I can't keep doing this for another 25 years. I was in Iraq the first time. I actually had this epiphany that although I loved my job, I loved what I was doing, I was like, this isn't my number one passion. I originally went in the Marine Corps. I wanted to be a pilot, and I still fly like small Cessnas and things like that, but I didn't do it in the military. And I love aviation, everything about it, but it's not my number one thing. And that's always been music. Music's been the thing that's been with me forever. And like I started out at probably 5 years old playing piano, like most kids in New England, or everywhere pretty much. And then taught myself guitar in middle school because I wanted to be like Marty McFly from Back to the Future. Who didn't? And amongst other, actual guitar players. But yeah, I was just always enthralled with music. I got into like digital recording in high school when it was still pretty new, with my Creative Audigy, the first gen little 5 1/4 interface, and recording my band and everything, and even down to the tape recorder on the table type of stuff. But yeah, I always loved mixing music and technology. And from that first deployment in Iraq, I started studying with Berkeley online. I had seen an ad when I was out deployed and was like, as soon as I get back, that's the first thing I'm going to do. And literally like about a month or two, whenever the next term started, I was there. I had, my first Mac in 2005, a Mac G5.
Mm-hmm.
And once you go Mac, you never go back. I have tons of experience on Windows, which is why I use a Mac. And yeah, I did 3 certificates with them when I was in the Marine Corps, and I finished the last one and I'm from Massachusetts originally, so Berkeley was always something I wanted to pursue, but I didn't want to move back to Massachusetts and then come back to California just for a year or so just to finish my degree. So they came out with this online extension program, and they're like, you can finish your degree in a year because of all the classes I already took. So I did it and finished my engineering degree as well, and yeah, and then eventually came to Line 6 Yamaha and loving it ever since. So
Now, how did that happened? I mean, first of all, it's a fascinating story, and kudos to you for achieving everything that you've done. But how did the position come about for you to get, like, I mean, that's quite the career turn going to line 6.
And actually, like I had mentioned, there's so many similarities. So the position I originally got hired for was the wireless product manager. And because of my background in radio communications for critical applications, right? Nothing gets more critical than landing aircraft. And then coupled with my music production degree from Berkeley and my studio experience and just my love of music, being a musician, I saw the posting and I was like, okay, somebody's pulling my leg, because this is I'm reading the description and it's everything that I do and everything I'm about. And I've been a Line 6 customer, honestly, way before I joined the company. Actually, since 2004, I bought, that was when I bought my first Line 6 product. It was used. It was a Flextone 2-head, which is still in the other room. I still have that.
Nice.
And I love that thing. I wanted to be a customer much earlier on, but you know, between going to the Marine Corps and everything and not making a lot of money, you know, my options were limited at the time. But yeah, ever since then, I was hooked and loved all their products and everything they did, and loved the customer service too. Actually, I you know, years after buying that, the master volume pot had gotten scratchy. Like as soon as you start turning it past 1, it was crackling. Called up Line 6 customer service and was like, yeah, I got this problem. And I was ready to like explain to them, like, look, I'm an electronics technician, just I need the part, I can solder it. I didn't have to say any of that. They're like, what's your address? I was like, oh, here it is, down Santiago Air Station. They're like, all right, we'll drop one in the mail, thanks. You know, like, that's the best customer service ever, you know. And I was just hooked ever since then.
I like the fact that you were obviously a customer for quite some time in it, so you got to experience the customer service. In this case, it was good for you, which is awesome. And then now becoming, you know, a team member, an employee there, and now you get to give that service to the other people that are like yourself, calling for some support, whether it be Helix or, you know, anything, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, and most of the folks watching probably see me on Facebook all the time. I'm not really on the other forums, but Facebook's just easy because I can check it with my phone.
Mhm.
And I love interacting with customers. I mean, my main job is to be the voice of the customer as a product owner. So I really enjoy the feedback, good or bad. Even more so, I like the bad feedback, or you know, the stuff that's wrong, because that helps me to do my job better and helps us to deliver the best products that we can. I mean, a lot of the features in Helix were, you know, crowdsourced from.
We're losing you there. I hope I haven't lost you. Have we lost you? I hope not. Are you still there, Andrew? Okay, Andrew might have to jump out. Andrew, if you can hear me, just try to click the link and come back in. It looks like we might have him. Are you still there, Andrew?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. So we lost you at the part where you said most of it was crowdsourced.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we enjoy that feedback. We take it very seriously, and that's why I'm so happy to be part of this team, because it's great to be around people that are as passionate as I am about you know, customer service and just making great products for musicians. So
It's a 360, contagious, isn't it? You know, you guys are excited, like you guys work it all day long, both on the clock and off the clock. The customers get that excitement and feedback back. It's just it's 360.
absolutely.
I love that. Let's jump over to the chat for a quick second. There's a bunch of people jumping in, and I think there's actually a question as well too. So I'm gonna go through this quickly and say hi to everybody. Terry's here. Terry's GG&G. Quentin James is here. Scott Roos is here. Make sure I don't miss anybody. Carlo Santin is here. My beautiful nocturnal butterfly is here, making the chat run nice and smooth. Thank you. Zach Thong is here. Let me see here. Scott Roos talking about YouTube. Lanide is here saying, hey guys. Chad Boston is here. Nice to have you, Chad. Carlo Santin says, oh, the gremlins are back. Let me see here. Charles Green, what's up, people? Good to be here. Great to be here. Love this show. Thank you, Charles. I appreciate that immensely. Let me see here. Dust Devil says, thanks for the reply, Chad and Carlo. the gold color. Sean Salz, you listening? Daryl McMillan is here. Hello, Chad Boston. You got to quit doing this, Chad. He gives. Well, actually, you don't have to quit, but it's always nice. It's $4.99 super chat. Always a great show. This one is for Eric Jr. Here's $5 for whatever he needs, and he'll spend it quicker than you can say his name. So thank you. So a little, you got $5. Thank you, Chad Boston. Trey Alabak is here saying, "Hey everyone." And there was a question, and you know what? Here it is. I went right past it. Dust Devil was asking, says, "Hey Eric, longtime listener, do you engage your global EQ with your Helix with any of your studio or live playing, or leave it disengaged?" I believe. I don't think I ever touch it. Explain to me what the global EQ does. You only use that in a pinch, don't you?
Yeah, honestly, I don't even touch it either. It's a great tool. It's there like if your room sounds different, stage sounds a bit different, so it just allows you a quick way to just tweak a little bit. I wouldn't use it to the extreme. It's just kind of like if you're mastering a mix or something, you just very minute changes, because otherwise you're going to start messing with all your different sounds. So I think it's just a good utility tool to fix stuff.
Okay, good. I thought I saw some people point that out in Chad's group, the fact that it's used for kind of a safety net. You're somewhere and you don't like the room EQ and you don't want to start going through every patch. So I assume that once you engage that would override everything on your patches as far as EQ.
Not necessarily override, but just it applies it at the end, right before the end. Just
Gotcha.
think of it like on the master channel on your mix and Pro Tools or something.
Okay, gotcha. That makes total sense. Okay, so thank you for clarifying that. So hopefully that helps. So I guess my answer is no, I don't. I don't touch it. So it's set to default factory. Before we start throughout the program here as well, too, we're going to talk about some of those really cool guitars you've got hanging on your wall. But I'd like, because my normal show over on the EVH show, talk about, influential guitarists and things like that as well, too. Obviously, Eddie Van Halen for me and a lot of our listeners. Who were some of your guitar heroes and influences growing up?
Well, I think you can see one back there. That's my N4. Nuno Betancourt is Rose, and definitely one of the best guitarists alive, or will be for all of eternity. We're actually from the same hometown. He was born in Portugal, but grew up in Hudson, Massachusetts, where I'm from, and that's not really biasing me. I bought his record, Porno Graffiti 2 at or Extreme 2 Porno Graffiti at the pawn shop for like a few bucks growing up, and was like, put the record on and was like, oh my God, my mind was just blown. Like the dynamics, his percussive playing. I mean, the whole band is phenomenal. I've seen them live several times, and they just put on a fantastic show. You can tell they're having fun, lots of energy, and just Nuno. I mean, he grew up, started playing drums, which I think you can tell in his playing is very percussive and rhythmic. But it's such a simple rig. That's what I like to remind myself, and I think a lot of us have to remind ourselves. We swim in the sea of options today, where it's like option paralysis, as we call it. But his N4, it's got a volume control, a 3-way pickup selector, and I think he's got a couple pedals, but I've got like his signature Randall amp, and I just take the guitar, or any guitar really sounds great through that amp, but I literally just plug it in the front end. I don't own any stomp boxes actually I do finally own one. We'll get to that later. Yeah. Yeah, it's really shows you it's all in the technique, or most of it is. Steve Vai, huge influence on me. There you go. And they're kind of a crazy dream come true for me, not just being able to work for a company I admire, but I've worked with Steve many times on different shows, setting up his wireless for the Passion Warfare tour in 2016, because they use 5 wireless systems for the band. And what else? Like some benefit concerts, and he's just phenomenal. Well, I'm trying to emulate him here, but I don't quite have the collection he does. Paul Gilbert, John Petrucci, my Music Man Majesty over there, fantastic guitar. So although I predominantly play Variax, I still, play other guitars once in a while, just not as much. But yeah, just I mean, so many great players that have influenced me, and I'm still trying to aspire to be a tenth or 100th as good as all of them. So we're always constantly learning, every one of us, even the greats. So.
Oh, of course they are. Yeah, I like the fact that you were talking about Nuno as being one of your influences. Like I like it. Well, I should say I love Extreme. But I'm not the fan I am as Van like I am with Van Halen, because I don't know enough about the band. Like, sure, I had the records as a kid, teenager, whatever, stuff like that. But Nuno, I put him in this category. I kind of call it like the organic rockers, and the reason why I call it that is, like you say, very, very simple. You could plug into basically anything, and I put Slash in that same category as well too. Even though like I don't really study Slash's technique or anything, it's very, very cool when you can sound so amazing, kind of like old school Eddie too, before Eddie was really using more than necessarily 2 or 3 pedals. Very organic between guitar, small signal chain, and amplifier, and sound amazing. A lot of guitar players just can't do that. And like, I use myself as an example. If I don't have, my nice delays and reverbs and ambiance, and I guess we call it smoke and mirrors, I don't feel comfortable. And so it takes a real special approach to be able to sound good through that kind of rig. So those guys do it.
Yeah, and Nuno said in many interviews that Eddie was a huge influence on him as well. So, and a lot of that, is evoked in a lot of tapping and different stuff that he does. Although Nuno has his own signature flavor that he does to everything. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention Jimmy Page. Come on, Led Zeppelin is like one of my favorite bands ever. And I got influenced to them by my brother, who's 7 years older than me, and he had the that 4-disc collection of kind of like all of their greats, which I still have the box over there. Nice. And again, you just go through album after album, and just those sweeping ways. They got the acoustic stuff, they've got the blues, hard rock, the vocals, everything. Unfortunately, I've never got to see Led Zeppelin live, but I did see this amazing tribute band called Led Zeppelin down in San Diego. And just, from what I've seen video wise of Zeppelin playing live and just listening to them for decades, I was like, if I was going to see them live, this would pretty much be it, because thing to the T, the tone, the sounds, the mannerisms, each performer nailed it 100%. And it was just exciting for me, because I'm like, I'm never going to get to see Led Zeppelin live, so this is the next best thing.
That happens with a lot of tribute bands. I mean, there's some bands, just don't travel, don't tour to certain these small little towns and things like that, and some people don't never get to see their heroes. So tribute bands are a blessing to a lot of people, and especially with Zeppelin, we may never ever see the 3 of them, play together again. Hard to say, but yeah, that's a great experience for you.
It was. They even had the theremin going on, so it was like everything, you name it.
That's awesome. I'm going to go over the chat again for a quick second here. Trey Alabac says, I just tried out my first Helix actually in person, and it blew me away. Just can't beat the price, and it competes to other name brands out there. Buying one in a couple months, all because of you, Eric. Thank you, Trey. I appreciate that. Thank you. Daryl McMillan says, I play my other guitars more than my JTB 69, but it's the guitar that always goes with me when I travel. Very, very nice. Good. It's versatile. We're going to jump right into the versatility of that in just a second. Lanide says, sold all guitars except my Music Man JPX and my Shuriken. Very cool.
Nice. Great choice.
Yeah, he kept some good ones for sure. Terry says, all right, I'm done. Player Unknown's Battleground match. Okay, he's trying to catch up. Trey Alabac says, George Lynch is like that as well. Only has yes, I got to put him in that category. Only has a tube screamer, and that's it, which I thought was wild. Yeah, that's awesome. He definitely fits into that category. Shekis is here saying, hey, Eric and Andrew, I'm a little late, but I made it to the show. So let's talk about the versatility of Variax. So as a lot of people watching the show, I mean, we're only 9 episodes into the Helix era, so I'm relatively new to the whole Helix family and things like that as well, and especially Variax. Although I did find a picture which I posted last week for an old throwback. I was playing the old Variax. Was it like something like the 300? It was a dual cutaway, had no pickup in it. Do you know which model that was? Like one of the first ones I'm thinking.
That was probably 300 or 500. Were like that, and then I mean they were all like that in the first generation without any pickups. But I've got a 700 in the next, which was
Okay.
a little more like carved top and a little fancier. But if it had a pick guard, it was either 300 or 500.
Yeah, I want to say 300, and it was in the studio where we recorded our first record, and the producer says, "I think you'd sound really cool with the electric 12 string here," and then and so we did that, and I overdubbed the sitar with it on it as well, very very light in the mix, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced the Variax, so that's very cool. But let's fast forward to today. You know, taking something like the Variax, which I've had for a very short time, and the Helix, which I've had a little longer, and putting the two of those together becomes a very, very powerful tool in the musician's toolbox. Share your thoughts on that and what you think, how the two of them can really complement one another.
Oh yeah, I mean, literally, I've got the whole rig set up here. I mean, regardless of the umpteen dozen guitars that I have, and I've got half stacks with tubes next door, in the other studio room. It's none of that's going on, you know, tour. I mean, I don't tour, but no one's going to a gig with me or anything. It's why it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I everything's in, you know, stays nice, cool condition. I mean, it may take something out once in a while, like a gem if I go to play with Steve at a show or something, or whatever. Not a show, like or something. And but it's I don't have roadies, you know, and I don't want to do that to anybody either. But yeah, it's a similar story to me. I had wanted a Variax for following the tech for many years, and then when they came out with what I call the second gen with the JTVs, I was like, that's it, I got to do it. And I bought a J in 2012, 2013, something like that. And I'm predominantly a studio guy, you know, being in a recording engineer and in production. And I'm not going to buy banjos and all these vintage acoustics and for like the happenstance that I might need them. And it's come in handy. I recorded like a country band. And I was like, banjo thing kind of in the background would be cool here just to accent a few things. It's like, turn the knob. There you go. Nobody's ever said like, I don't think that's a real solid emulation. Like, nobody knows. I've used it, you know, 12-string acoustics, you know, Rickenbacker's guitars that I don't have, that I'll never buy just because it's like those. It's not like I have anything against them, but you know, I've got kind of my favorite types of guitars that I like, and if for the once in a while use, I say that and anymore because of the Shuriken and my 89F, but at least it's nice artwork, right? So,
for sure.
But yeah, it's like before our test call, I was like, let me just set something up just in case. So I literally pulled the Helix out of the bag, brought the Shuriken over, got the Powercab there, literally in 5 minutes, and I had 0 presets like created in here because I reflash it every once in a while. I just kind of wipe everything out because I'm doing demos and stuff. In 5 minutes, I had everything plugged in, cabled up. I created a preset that has 4 snapshots that switch me between acoustic, resonator, a Strat, and a Les Paul with different tunings in between, different speaker models in the Powercab, different amps in 5 minutes. Like, that's
effortless.
There's nothing more to say. It's like,
yeah, I hear you on that. When I brought the Powercab down to Jason's house, Jason Sedites last weekend, a week ago yesterday, literally 5 minutes. All we did was switch between the green setting, and we went to cream and stayed there. And he had, believe it or not, he had that patch he wrote to do the Jakey Lee Bark at the Moon kind of sound. So you're talking some serious gain, and we stayed on that patch I think the entire day, other than trying one other thing. And when he was playing, doing some crazy leads, he rolled his volume back and he was playing jazz chords and stuff on a Jakey Lee patch. So you want to talk about versatility. But yeah, so I guess going back to that, the combination of Variax with Helix, I like what you said about saving different tunings with different snapshots. It's so effortless. And then what I really like about this too, what people will experiment with is, for people like me and others, you might have an accident when you're playing and you got let's say like a 12 string, it's on the fourth position of your toggle switch or something, and you might hit it and knock it. You can actually lock things so you can have accidents.
Absolutely.
Or lock the volume knobs or lock the tone or whatever.
Yeah, that does when he tours. A lot of guys do that. If I was gonna take this preset I just made, out, I would do the same thing and just lock, because it's like I'm not gonna touch the nobody really does anyway. But what's cool is the tone knob on the acoustic models actually controls the mic position, because there's no tone on acoustic guitar. So that's what that's controlling. So sometimes, if I want that in a set spot, you can recall it too. That's the beauty of it. Like a lot of the stuff you could do with Pod HD. I've had that for had an X3 and all that stuff. But to me, the reason why I tell everyone just bite the bullet, get a Helix or a Helix LT or rack, whatever your flavor is. Very want to be like, oh, I'm going to go find an old used one for a few $100. It's like, trust me, you're going to be happy with this. I know I can't help but sound biased from where I'm coming from, but as a customer as well, and just, thinking about the ease of use and versatility, like the power of snapshots, it's life-changing. You can go search the threads for me saying that, because I say it a million times. It will change your life. You said you were in that one preset, and you got so many tones just out of that one rig. That's what the preset is. It's your entire rig. Now you can control up to 64 parameters, which into that limit, via snapshots, without having to tap dance and hit a bunch of different stomps on and off. I mean, you can still do that if you want. That's the beauty. It works the way you want to work.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I would think using a Variax with Helix for cover bands, you could cover everything from 80s, pop to modern metal to country, anything in between.
Yep.
With those two.
Yeah. I have a good friend of mine in San Diego who's with like one of the top cover bands in the country. They are corporate bands. They do all kinds of genres and they play here. Before I even got this gig, I already had a Variax and I had a Pod HD. This was just before Helix came out. I told him, like, I don't know why you are the primary, not the primary customer, but you're like one of the people that can take advantage of this stuff the most. And he finally got a Pod HD 500X, and the Helix was already out. And I'm like, I didn't have mine yet, but after getting one, I was like, dude, you need this. It's indestructible, pretty much. It's so versatile, and then all the continuous updates, the models. But one thing I want to point out too, while cover bands are great, we talked about how excellent they are to experience bands you may never see. Power and the message that myself and others like Stevic and our marketing team, we're really trying to push is the creative aspect of Variax and Helix as well, because it's now that you have this world of possibilities, you can do things that you would have never done or never thought to do. I mean, even me using Variax since 2013, when I first met Stevic and I saw what he Variax, and it's like, actually do that. Like, that's been there all along. There's been no like magical update that allows you to do what he does, but it's just thinking outside the box and saying like, oh, that's right, I can like, you can adjust volumes, but nobody ever thinks like, I'm going to turn it to 0 and turn it off. So it's just like, now after seeing him too, it's like, oh, I feel like guilty that I haven't been in technology to the max. So I'm like, okay, I got to find new and interesting ways to use this stuff. So
yeah, like, doesn't he have like one song or a couple songs where like he'll do like 10 to 12 or 13 different tuning changes in one song?
Yeah, he applied for a Guinness Book of World Records. I don't know what happened with it this last NAMM, because he had a song where he's like, I changed tuning 18 times. But I watched after the fact, and I was like, oh, there's actually 19 tuning changes. It's just there's so many, even he lost track. So or tuning and model changes. So it's just insane what you can do with it, and it's just you could never pull that show off live any other way.
No,
You'd be hard pressed to pull it off in the studio with time and gear and guitars.
exactly. I like how you mentioned a key factor too about turning off volume, and we're going to talk about Workbench HD hopefully
Speaking
too.
of,
But you know, how, let's say you want to palm mute and chug on a chord, whatever, and you don't want your low E string getting in the way. You can turn it off, so you can hit it as much as you want, but it's not going to sound.
that's exactly what he does. He wants, the people forget how important the right hand is. Provided you're playing the traditional orientation, but how important that right hand is. This is what's making the sound. This is just selecting the notes. I mean, of course, you've got vibrato and things like that, but this is the primary thing, and that was something I learned from Carlo Santin, 2017, at the first Vi Academy that I helped out with. And he, if you don't know him, he was the guitarist for David Bowie. He was like the youngest to play the Apollo Theater. He's a phenomenal guitarist. But he, his main role is as a rhythm guitarist, and like the things that he's his mouth and see what he does, like just emphasizing that rhythm and doing exercises, just focusing on the right hand. That'll dramatically jumpstart your technique and your performance.
Yeah.
Because you can play all the notes you want as fast as you want, but if you're not in time or you don't got that feel, or it's all lost. It's all for nothing.
Yeah, that's very, very underlooked at. When you talk about the right hand, it can make or break it for you for sure. Get in the way, it can actually become your Achilles heel for you if you're not careful. Over in the chat for a quick second here, there's a couple of technical questions. Hopefully you can answer. I know you'll be able to answer. First of all, Shecky says, hey, Eric and Andrew, I'm a little late, but I made it to the show. One of the first technical questions is from Robert Apple, says, can Andrew please explain the differences between the necks on the Variax Standard versus the James Tyler Variax?
Well, there's three JTVs. First of all, you've got the 69, 59, and the 89 models, but I'm assuming he means 69 because that's the most strat-like model, which is the standards similar as well. I have both of them actually. I have like 369s, I think, and I would say that the first 69 I got, which was before I joined the company, actually it was just a few months before, I was surprised at the neck shape, just because it's like, imagine you put a blindfold on and I tell you I'm gonna feed you an orange, and then I feed you a banana. You're gonna be like, ooh, and spit it out. It's not that you don't like bananas, you just had a different perspective or thing in your head. And that's what I think a lot of folks, while I think the JTVs are great, I think it's difficult because it puts a preconceived notion in people's head on what this guitar is going to be, which it may be better or off from your expectations. But I was like, ooh, that's a little thicker and different shape than I imagined, but it felt cool, like a super particular neck aficionado. I mean, I do like kind of wide flat necks, like a Ibanez style, but it's like, if I'm playing guitar, I'm happy. I'm not gonna but I was a bit surprised with it. Now, when I got a standard, which is essentially a Yamaha Pacifica, it's made in the same factory, and that was the first product that we collaborated with Yamaha on after the acquisition. It feels a bit skinnier and smaller to me. Probably, I'd say maybe closer to a more modern Strat. I think the neck on the 60, which is designed by Jim Tyler, it's more of the vintage Strat vibe to it, a little chunkier, a little thicker, but it's just a different, every guitar and every luthier has their own way of doing things. So that's Jim's way of doing stuff. So it's teach their own.
Good answer. And I like the fact that you mentioned the Pacifica. I've got one here too that I really enjoy, the Pacifica 921, a real shred machine. It's a triple humbucker, basically dual humbuckers with the stacked humbucker. I think it's the Yngwie Malmsteen humbucker in the center, and that was factory.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Nice guitar.
Oh, the Pacificas are amazing. Sorry to cut you off there. I just wanted to give a shout out. The more that I like interact with them, like we have our product specialist folks that play them, and we've now got the Yamaha Artist Services LA office 2 buildings down from us. So I'll go in there and I'm like, where have these guitars been all my life? They're so amazing, and stock configurations are just killer on those guitars. They feel great, they play great, they last forever.
Can you confirm something? You may know this or you may not. You know how we always hear these folklore things, and I think I have this right. The Pacifica 921 was the guy's name Rich Lasner. He came from Ibanez to Yamaha. Does that ring a bell? The designer.
His name sounds familiar.
Yeah, look that up later on.
So
I think that's what I was told, that he was the designer of that particular of the Pacifica, and I don't know that to be fact, but I heard that he came from Ibanez. Maybe do some looking into that. Let me know if I'm right or if I'm completely out of whack.
I will look into that for you.
All right. Perfect. A couple more questions over in the chat. Well, I'll say hi to folks first, but there are some technical questions. Guitar News Network is here. They had a great show yesterday. Daryl McMillan's here. So they're going to see a tribute band, Brit Floyd, next month. Yeah, tribute bands are fantastic. And Nemtal says, Ozone Baby, one of Canada's finest Zeppelin tributes. Let me see here. Ozone Baby. Yeah. And Shekia says, I used to work use my JTV 69 exclusively. And Terry says, barring nothing happens next Sunday, I'll be seeing English blues country rock legend here in my hometown, Albert Lee, whom also played and that'd be fantastic. That'd be a great show. He's still playing music, man?
I believe so.
Yeah, the signature, right? I assume he's still playing that.
I think so.
And Terry says, this show's a very good one. Thank you. Shekia says, this thing it's Mexico. It's almost impossible to get. Zach Thong says, yesterday I saw at Cosmo Music Fest Richie Kotzen, awesome guitar player. He is smoking in his voice.
I saw him the other night at the Mr. Big show, right 5 minutes from Line 6, Canyon Club. It was a tribute to Pat Torpey because, rest in peace, he passed away. Amazing drummer. And Richie Kotzen opened for Mr. Big, and then they all got up and jammed later. Phenomenal guitar player.
And you watch him play a lot of times too. Like I don't know, like obviously I know Richie Kotzen, but I don't, analyze him like I analyze the Eddie Van Halens and people like that. And you watch him play a lot of times. He's doing the shred stuff. And he's picking with his thumb, kind of like Jeff Beck kind of deal, but fast.
Yeah. I was like, after, felt short to me, but it's probably close to an hour. I was like, I could listen to a whole night of this guy. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I know. Billy said, he's mentioned a couple times, like with Mr. Big and Sons of Apollo, and you think of all these hit bands he's played with, David Lee Roth and stuff like that. The Winery Dogs with Richie, that's his happy spot. I mean, if he puts all the eggs in the basket, yeah.
The Winery Dogs is fantastic.
Great
power
band.
group.
Here is another technical question. This one's from Lanide. He's a friend of on Facebook, and obviously you probably know him through the Facebook groups as well too. Says, what do you think about having the Shuriken customized by a luthier? Thinking more flashy top, or do you maybe even have a recommendation for a luthier? I would say any luthier you want, but I think they're pretty cool out of the gate. What would you say about that?
Well, if anyone was watching our NAMM coverage or stopped by at Music Messa this year, we did show some prototype kind of concept colors. You can see one of them behind me.
Oh, you've got
Maybe
one.
I'll just, I guess it's public now that I snuck one on. No, it's a loaner. It's from the office, but Stevik and I just came up with like 9 different finishes and some solid metallics, some like a quilted maple with a burst. That's actually what he plays in the NAMM demo video on stage. It's a charcoal burst. So we just really were like, rather than seeing this guitar, you know, all blacked out, look, it's so dark, even with the light here, you can't even see it. It's super cool. I love satin black finishes. I've got a Sterling JP 170 in that. It's super cool. But I gave you the example with the orange and the banana. It just puts this preconceived notion in people's head that this is like some aggressive, genty metal guitar, but it's like, no, it can play acoustic, it can play resonators, banjo, sitar, like, you know, and genty stuff or whatever you want it to do. So it kind of masks the versatility for some people, I think, on what it does. Just like if somebody gets a 69 or a standard and they're like, the Strat sound that's in the model, you know, isn't Stratty enough or doesn't sound exactly like the mag pickups. It's like, well, it was modeled after this whatever 59 Strat was $100,000. It sounds exactly like that one, but it doesn't sound like the, you know, $600 Mexican Strat at Guitar Center or the pickups in your JTV. So we were just like, we want to put it in a different light, and it seemed to work because everyone was loving the finishes, and I was kind of like, oh crap, now we're going to be like on the hook to hopefully make some of these things, and you know, we'll see what happens. They're still talking about it, but it's just great to see the enthusiasm where people are like, oh yeah, I could totally use that like at church. It's like, you would have, well, I don't know, some people might take this to church, but like there's a pearl white one, and it's cool with the all black hardware with the pearl white, or like one of those bursts, like I said. We even at the NAMM show, we gave away a one of a kind hand painted 12-foot ninja inspired shuriken, which just looked rad. And when Steva came up with that mock-up, I was like, let's do one that's not quite as 12-foot ninja. And that's the one back there. I'll bring it closer later. It's red with their artwork. And yeah, people love that too. So it's just some, you know, hopefully there'll be more options in the future. We'll see.
Fantastic. Scott Reus says, I used to use a Variax 600 into a Pod XT Live, but the Pod XT Live died after about 11 years of use. Well, first of all, that's good that you got 11 years out of it, and that's awesome. He also says got the Helix and found the old Variax wasn't fully compatible, so he went and got the JTV 59, and he loves the integration between the two.
That's exactly what I was alluding to earlier. Just bite the bullet, go big or go home, and you won't regret it.
Yeah, it's an investment for life. It's one of those things, you know, you might buy 3 or 4 other guitars in the interim of doing that. And you that's one thing I learned from my dad. You do it right the first time, and you don't have to do it again.
Absolutely.
He didn't coin that, but I mean, obviously that's the thing he taught me in life. Do it right the first time, and you'll be happy. Shecky says snapshots is the game changer. You never go back to the old tap dancing for sure. And our good friend, your fellow colleague, Frank Rashad, is here in the chat. And I'm sorry, I'm late getting to say hi to you, Frank.
What's up, Frank?
Yeah. Scott Reus says hi,
fellow
Frank.
New Englander.
Yeah. You know, in the question a minute ago, talking about, you know, changing the top or anything like that, I actually had a question for you as well today too. Let's say us guys that like the when we're not using the Variax technology, we're using magnetic pickup. Let's say we want to hop it up a little tiny bit and go for something like, because I'm spoiled with Wolfgang guitars and things like that. They're very, very insanely hot output pickups. And they work nice with a lot of the things where we use either Helix or the 5150s and things like that. What if we want to throw in like a Seymour Duncan custom or something like that? I know there's a lot of computer technology in that Variax. What are your thoughts on A, is it relatively easy to do at a music store? And 2, will it void any warranty?
So you won't void a warranty by putting in another pickup, provided you kind of follow our guidelines. There is a like a pickup installation guide on our knowledge base, as well as the many folks that have been in the Variax Worldwide group. That's a customer started group on Facebook. Like Richie Castellano replaced the ones in his standard, and other folks have asked about replacing those. So myself or Partiv, who's actually our on-site technician, he's the guy that if you send it in the U.S. for repair, he's the guy that's going to work on it. So he's got more experience than I do with these. I believe his recommendation is make sure that the impedance of the pickups between 6K and 8K. If you go I think you can go kind of up to 10K, but after that, it's just going to sound too dark because again, you're not just going pickup to volume controlled in tone if you got one and out to the 1/4 inch. You're going through the system because like when you're connected via V.
We might have lost you there. Are you still there? We might have lost Andrew. I'll jump back over to the chat for a second until we see that he's back. Daryl McMillan. Oh, sorry, we lost you. So yeah, I think you were saying through the VDI.
Yeah, so the pickups have to be able to be digitized somehow. So they definitely hit the circuitry. Although if you take the battery out, you can totally use this passively with the 1/4 inch and the mag pickups. There's a relay that switches that over. So there's some parameters, some kind of boundaries you should stay within, but you could totally put in most of your favorite pickups in the guitar. For me, I don't even use the mag pickups, so it's neither here nor there for me.
Let me see. Daryl McMillan said, "Oh yeah, I mentioned his comment already." Or he says, "Snapshots are amazing. I used to use them. To change all kinds of parameters and switch to my amps settings via MIDI." Johnny Lee Guitarist is here saying, "Andrew, I'm here, man. Team Shuriken all the way."
Johnny.
Yeah, he's on vacation, wasn't he? Somewhere.
He was in Disney World.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, and he saw Solo. I live like in California, close to Disneyland, and I'm not at Disney, and I didn't see Solo, so I was so jealous.
Yeah, and he traveled half the world to do it. That's hilarious. Let's talk a little bit about a couple things, some troubleshooting tips. It's something that sometimes people, and I, myself included, have done things wrong and trying to figure things out. Number one, battery life on Variax. Sometimes people will use it strictly on the battery and they don't realize maybe they don't have a Helix, so they can't use VDI. But if they do have a Helix, we'll talk about how you can preserve battery life on the Variax, and also let's talk about Variax Workbench, where people are trying to hook up and do things with the software and they're not connecting with the USB interface. So maybe you can share some quick tech tips on those two things.
Okay, so first thing to note is that if you're not using VDI, the guitar gets power. The only way that it can boot up and turn on is with a 1/4 inch plugged into the jack. So whether you are wanting to use Workbench, in which case you'd want a 1/4 inch connected anyway to hear what your changes are. That's kind of a given. But if you're, let's say, connected to Line 6 Monkey, if you want to reflash the firmware or something, and you're using the, I've got one over there somewhere, but the VDI to USB interface, you got to plug a 1/4 inch to boot the system up. So that's another thing. I actually saw a customer, I think it was yesterday, who was like, oh, my Variax battery ran out and I wasn't even using the modeling. And it was like, I had to remind him, no, anytime you have that 1/4 inch in, the system's on. And that's what allows you to be able to just push the model knob and toggle between mags only or Variax, which is, I'll just highlight that for a second. Another thing people forget is that when you're in Variax mode, you can actually blend in the magnetic pickups as well. Or let's say turn all so you never have to toggle. You could have a preset in one of the positions that's just your mag pickup. The only thing to note though is, even though this one, the Shuriken, only has one pickup, so it doesn't matter your pickup position, on all the other guitars, if you're using mags in Variax mode, it's tied to the 5-way position,
right?
Or 3-way if it's a 59. So that's just another thing important to note. But yeah, I don't even have a battery in this guitar right now. I'm actually using the battery to power my video light here. And I literally, yeah, don't put camera batteries in the guitar, but do whatever else you want with other gear. But I just use VDI because I'm always connected to Helix. Yeah, I guess I only, I do use it in the studio sometimes, in which case I may throw the battery because I'm going 1/4 inch to the studio, or I'll just connect it to the Helix just for power because it's always, you know, here, and just run 1/4 inch out. Although I don't usually recommend using both at the same time.
Well, that's a good
I
point.
haven't seen it break anything. Some customers have said they've done it. I think Partev has warned some folks that you might draw too much current or something out of it. But I would just say, you know, pick your flavor. If you don't have a VDI equipped product, then you're going 1/4 inch. If you have, why use 1/4 inch? It just, you know, unless you need to use wireless, then you'll of course be on 1/4 inch. Yeah, but that's, interestingly, as the former wireless product manager, even when I got hired, one of the first things I said was, "Can I make wireless VDI?" Because as a customer, I'm like, I really want it bad. So for those that are, because I'm sure that question is going to come up, and it has on the forums.
I've seen it.
Nobody wants it more than I do. So believe you me, you know, I'll do what I can. I've given, you know, some examples of unit systems, because you got to imagine, like I mentioned, you got mags and the modeling going down VDI, plus control signals, plus control back to the guitar. So you got to have three, essentially it'd be like 3 body packs transmitting out from the guitar to your rig, and then another wireless coming back. So it's like if you took 4 G90s, add that up, that's, you know, quite expensive.
I know.
Never mind trying to cram that into one system.
I know. I remember I read that same thread in the Facebook group and chat. I think it was Chad's group, and you were saying you had said exactly that. No one wants it more than you, but you know, would you still want it if it's as expensive as a Variax or a couple of, or maybe even a Helix and a couple of Variaxes, maybe? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a crucial piece of gear, and it's, you know, for guys that really, or girls that really need wireless, you know, I would want it to be a tour grade, you know, roadworthy solution. So if, you know, a Helix is tour worthy, you know, wireless should be just as well, especially Dave Malmsteen, who uses our relay wireless, flipping his guitars around and throwing them off stage and everything. So he goes through body packs quite a bit, because I think when it was designed, they didn't do the Yngwie Malmsteen test.
Road test, yeah, structure test.
But I think what he does is beyond normal usage. So
I think you're probably right.
He's amazing. He's amazing, though.
Do you guys still have the powered, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm calling it right, but the powered DI box for people that want to use Variax, don't have a Helix, and have some power going to it?
Yes. Yes, we sell it on our web store for U.S. customers. Dealers have it. I know Sweetwater sells it. And it's just a little A/B switcher. So it's actually pretty convenient for those that have to use 1/4 inch or really desire to, because it allows you to little floor unit, but also it has a 1/4 inch out and an XLR out. So when you're going from an electric sound that goes through your pedal board and your amp rig sound, because that's another thing that people have a misconception. They'll run acoustic models into their half stack and be like, it doesn't sound like an acoustic. Why doesn't it sound good? It's like, oh, you got to run that through like some full range system PA, not a you know, Mesa triple rectifier half stack. But that's what's a cool thing about that product. Actually, I have one as well. I got it for the Variax 700 that I have, because I'm like, I don't want to put AA batteries in this thing.
No.
So so that's, yeah, it's totally available, and it's a cool product. So
good, and that's on the website as well. We're approaching the Helix hour at 3:54 here, so we'll probably be wrapping up here shortly. I'll try to burn through some more questions here real quick, or some statements. Lanide says turning down certain string volumes really comes in handy when doing freaky sweeps. I can imagine stuff's not getting in the way. Tim Bowen says, I'm late but made it. Thanks for making this happen each week. You are very welcome. Thank you for watching each week. Shekia says, even the 69, it's a bigger neck. It's a great, I like it a lot, vibrato and sustain wise. If you're a Strat player, you'll be at home with it. Robert Apple says, thanks, Andrew, for the neck explanation. I have relatively small hands and I'm always concerned with neck size. Frank says, James has a very particular neck. It's all his design. And let me see here. This is a good question, technical question from Rama182. Hi all. Any word on a Variax firmware update anytime soon? Sorry if this has been asked. I'm late to the party, so it hasn't been asked. Is there anything that you can address?
Yeah, basically, you know, we don't have any new models or anything to add currently because you know there's a plethora of stuff that even I haven't fully. Stevic's probably come the closest to tapping into everything it can do, but the firmware that is available, you've seen like when we came out, there was a bump in the rev. That was really just to for this particular model because the system is optimized for each physical body that we put it into, which is why anybody that ventures into transplant world, I make sure to tell them that, like, look, it's designed to go in this scale length, this body, all of that. The system's fine tuned for that. So if you change the neck, some guy into 25.5-inch neck, I'm like, at your own risk, man, because if it doesn't sound the way you want, don't say I didn't warn you. But yeah, so that's really just to accommodate the new, like when we came out Variax standard, same thing. There was a bump in the firmware. It was just because we had to optimize it for that particular physical guitar. But there hasn't been really anything new in the Variax HD firmware for a while. Sorry to say, but I would love it if someone told me they've maxed out the capabilities and have tried everything. Because, like I said, I was a Variax customer for a long time, and after watching Stevic, my mind was blown. It was like I've been using a minutia fraction of the capabilities. So
Fantastic.
look forward to seeing what people do.
Yeah, the old scenario, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, obviously there's little enhancements, but if it's not broke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I know we got a couple of minutes, but if I could touch on the whole Powercab, kind of this whole system, I just think, you know, you might be interested as well, being having done the review recently. So like I said, 5 minutes, I connected the guitar, the Helix and Powercab, including a MIDI cable to control the Powercab. Because I've had some people tell me, like, I don't want to deal with MIDI. I'm like, it would take you less time than it would to respond to this comment. And it did. It was 3 steps to control Powercab from Helix. So I put this together. I've got 4 snapshots. So I go from, let me turn the mic so maybe we can hear the Powercab, but we've got this acoustic sound. And then I go to a resonant. I learned that tuning from Carlo Santin. It's B, G flat, B, G flat, B, B. It was an old Bayou blues tuning. Then it goes into a standard tuning, Strat. So those first 2, because they were acoustic, those were the flat flat mode. And then this one has just the kind of double norm Fender Twin based on model with the Strat and the greenback in there. And then it goes into a rectifier with a Les Paul and 5 steps down, 5 frets down. So I'm just playing the same notes so you can hear how the tuning's changing. So if I go to this tuning, that doesn't sound so good, but actually it's kind of Led Zeppelin-y. Anyway, but yeah, like actually the longest thing that took me was just cable. Even that was less than 5 minutes. So I just want to show it can be done.
For sure. I've seen some people talking in the groups about it. That's fantastic because that's the only thing that a lot of us don't know how to do so far with Powercab and Helix is change the MIDI. And you will do that. You will do that probably quite often, going from acoustic guitar to your rock, dirty guitar, or clean guitar. And that's where I would go. I would go from flat to cream probably.
and I know this was like the mic on my power cabs angled up at my head. Probably wasn't the optimal setup. I'd probably just take the DI out of the power cab, but nothing I showed was off of stock. The only thing, the rectifier, I had the snapshot turn down the decay time and the mix of the reverb a little bit, but the amp models were the default settings. The compressor that was on the acoustic models was default. The models in here were all the stock presets in the Shuriken, and the I just used the presets in Powercab because what you can do in Helix, you go to Command Center. So I hit Menu, Knob Center, and then I just turn the program change to the preset number. So 0 for flat, 2 for the greenback, and 1 for the vintage 30 for the rectifier.
Simple.
That was it. Like, it literally took me less than 30 seconds to connect the MIDI cable and do that. It was, and to be honest, I've never read the Helix manual other than like a couple times I've searched it, custom or something, but it's just intuitive. It works.
That's
So,
good. I may pick your brain on that later on. I can probably figure that, but I might hit you up and ask you how to do that because that's the next thing I want to experiment with for sure. So it can be done
yeah.
easily.
That I was going to mention earlier that applies totally here is it's as simple or as complex or advanced as you want it to be. So like I said, I set that up in minutes. There's folks with crazy complicated rigs with like every block maxing out DSP on their Helix, and then there's some folks that it's like amp and cab to front of house, and maybe a compressor in front of that. It's just whatever you want it to do.
I know.
That's the beauty of it.
I've seen some guys using a Helix for a tube screamer.
Yep. Yeah.
Nothing else.
They're
They're
full Helix. Oh,
I lost.
especially before we came out with HX effects that would just take the full Helix or an LT and just use it for an effects only unit.
Yep.
It can be whatever you want it to be. Just like the Variax, it can be pretty much whatever you want it to be.
As simple or as complicated. Over in the chat, Frank Rashad saying, hey, everyone hit thumbs up. Johnny Lee Guitar says, I use my Shuriken live for mainly acoustic sounds. Let me see here. Nemtal says, Ozone Baby features Phil Naro on vocals from Talus, Billy's Sheehan's earliest band. And Frank says, Talus rules. They certainly do. Let me see here. And yeah, a couple people saying we had some freezing, but we're good now. Let me see here. And actually, Terry's posted Albert Lee's official's website here as well, too. Touring in Toronto. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's coming up. I could catch that. June 14th and 18th. That's very cool. And let me see what anything else I can get to. Robert Apple says, thanks, Frank. Hope you're doing well. Cheers for the answer from Ramo 182. Chapman Music says, thanks, guys. Great job. We'll be replacing my Gibson Les Paul with the Variax for my Helix and Powercab combination. It's a natural step. Only problem is to decide which Variax. I know. If that's the worst problem we have to choose in life, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I would say that it really comes down to like aesthetics, what resonates with you, and then probably the most important thing is kind of how does it feel like neck shape wise, etc. The good thing is with like the standard like Pacifica, so you pretty much know how a standard's going to feel. The other Variax models, you got to go try one out. But I think it's cool as heck. We mentioned the kind of like acoustics with the Shuriken. I love messing with people's heads. Like we were at the LA Amp show and I was working the booth and I was playing the Shuriken and I was doing a resonate and in the booth, and you could see the bewilderment on his face. He's like, where is that coming from? And I'm like, it's from here, man. Just mess with people's heads. They don't expect to see, hear certain things coming out of certain. I think it's fun.
Yeah, they think it's going to be the end of the world coming from that thing. Meanwhile, it's something very beautiful and pretty.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I as a shred player, a shred style, I'm not a shred player by any means, but as a fan of shred and Floyd Rose is like is my life. The 89F, what I have here is to die for. And don't ever let anyone ever tell you that on a non-official Floyd Rose Well, like the graph tech that's in that thing stays in tune as good. Like I can't throw it out of tune. I cannot throw it out of tune.
Graphtech makes amazing stuff. They make all the tusk nuts for all of our guitars. That bridge. I've used their other tuners and stuff. Just I use a lot of the GK stuff because I'm a guitar synth nut. Another reason I think I'm good for this position. But yeah, they make great stuff.
Yeah. When that gets
Let's have more fun with making music and coming up with cool creative stuff. I'm really eager to see what everybody can do with this technology.
exactly.
Beyond trying to throw back to the vintage stuff. So
That's right. I could not agree more. Let's see what everyone can come up with. We're going to wrap it up here. Nocturnal Butterfly says, be sure to take a look at our social media profiles, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the Helix Hour. Check us out and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/EVH Gear TV. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in on this beautiful Sunday. Well, it started off as a beautiful Sunday. It's a little rainy here now, but it's obviously going to be a little different where you are. But at least thank you for tuning in. And Andrew, thank you as well for giving me an hour of and our fans here, an hour of your time. It's always fun to talk to stuff, and just can't thank you enough.
yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's been fantastic. I could do this all day with you. You're a pleasure to talk to, and of course I love talking about this type of stuff. And anybody that's on any of the Facebook groups, feel free to tag me if you got like a question or something, and I'll do my best to answer it, despite my wife trying to push me to get off the phone. So.
I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you do it, but we all appreciate it. Trust me, you, Frank, the whole team, Eric Klein, everybody, Nick, everyone that's involved, Henry in marketing, and just everybody. We're very blessed to have the support and enthusiasm from you guys and girls that really are champions.
I'm lucky to work with such a fantastic team. So
that's great, and it goes full circle for sure. Thank you so much. And next week, we spoke about Chad Boston. Chad Boston's gonna be on the show same time next week, and many more great guests. As I can't believe we're at episode 9 already, but it's because of the support from you guys and girls out there. So thank you so very much, Andrew. I'm gonna say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in this Sunday, and we'll be back EVH and Gear TV next Friday, and then of course Helix Hour on Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
Thanks, everyone. Rock on.
We'll see you real soon, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.